and welcome to Four Wives on the Mic. You've got myself, Nikki, and you've got lovely panel of ladies, ladies of panel. So to my right, you've got
KK, also unclassified mummy on Instagram.
Yeah, and she does have some very, very juicy topics that she conversations that she gets set off on her Instagram page. So do follow her, because I'm sure some of you might get into some controversial heated conversations on there. And then to my left, I've got the lovely
Timi, Nigerians watching from firsttimemom.com, which is just an online community of new first-time mothers, mainly African, but all nationalities and everything welcome, of course. That's us.
So again, I'm going to have the link so you can also follow her. Not you can, you will follow. You will follow. And last but not least, we've got...
I'm Blessing. My YouTube name is Blessing Antonia, about women's lifestyle really. Advice and hints on lifestyle.
It's all very juicy. So go and follow and subscribe. Okay, so today's topic is compromise necessary for a relationship or marriage to work? Well, is compromise necessary?
Definitely.
Yes.
So we all agreed.
Especially as Africans.
Why especially as Africans?
African men.
Sorry to say, thank you for saying it for me. It's crucial actually. Because it's the clashes that cause the most problems that I'm aware of within marriages. And
that ability to compromise.
Beginning with the foundation that you set, because it's in the foundation stages that you realise, is this something that I can even be a part of, number one. And you get to, because it's not the great side of the person you need to worry about, it's the other side of them that is the crucial key as to, is this somebody I can be with? So the foundation in the beginning, and compromise as a woman, I'm sorry, but we're just the neck. So we need to actually read psychology to know how to work in a marriage, but yes, we have to compromise and come down.
So from what you're saying, I just want to be clear, are you basically saying that more as women, as African women, we're more inclined to have to compromise?
Definitely.
Why would you say that? Well, I mean, do you guys agree?
I definitely agree. I mean, I think, with everything, you know, there's exceptions, but I agree that within a lot of African or Black families, I would say actually, our culture is different. The expectations that are placed on men are very different to those, you know, other men from other, you know, cultural backgrounds. I think men, naturally as it is already, men are already seen as, you know, there's a double standard. Men are already kind of placed on a pedestal, and women are kind of below that. And I don't know whether it's also just a case of the numbers. They say that there are more women than men in terms of stats, so I don't know if it just feels like a real, like, desperate, you know, need to keep your man or get a man, because there's so many that are running out. It seems like there's less of them, but I feel like the unique kind of cultural expectations placed on men, or, you know, are different to other communities, and I think for that reason compromise is hugely important. I think.
So what were you going to say?
I would say yes, definitely. Compromise is important in any relationship, and I mean, I'm talking about friendships going all the way up to a partner, a husband, a marriage. To what degree you compromise actually is a personal choice. And the expectation of compromise, can we call it an expectation? Because then you're choosing to be in that relationship. So actually, if there is that expectation, then you've already agreed to that compromise.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, because I don't know, I feel like sometimes you don't know what the expectation is until you're fully in it.
Yeah, 100%.
Do you know what I mean?
That's what
and then when I think about this expectation that's put, because I agree, there is a lot of expectation, a lot of pressure that's put on women to conform to a certain type of wife and to conform to being a certain type of mother. But is that then compromise? If that expectation, that pressure is there, is that compromise?
I suppose, what is compromise? Compromise is such a broad term, but I think in terms of the relationships and in terms of exactly what we're talking about, I would say, just to put it quite candidly, compromise in that you may get into a situation and you have to just realize this is how men behave in certain things. I'm not saying it has to be something, you know, that's harming you or making you unhappy or anything like that. But I'm just saying, I don't know, I'll keep a very basic example. If you're married to an African man, for example, and he may expect that the woman is the one who is domesticated, deals with the house chores, whilst he is the provider, coming home, bringing the bacon or whatever, that type of traditional context, a lot of families kind of operate in that setting. Well, you know what I mean, generally speaking, not every family, of course. And I think the compromise is perhaps if you were somebody like me who wasn't very domesticated growing up and that kind of thing.
Not domesticated, you're not a cat. But not very domestic. I don't know, not very domestic.
Domestic, that's the word.
Yeah.
That's the word. I just mean, I wasn't always, I wasn't very... No, it's good. It's good to kind of be clearer. I mean, I wasn't always a, you know, homemaker. Do you know what I mean? That was never really my personality or anything growing up until I got married, and then I realized, oh, I do need to think about making sure the house looks, you know, nice, and making sure that it's, you know, what was the word? I'm house proud, for example. Make sure there's nice things and all this. It's tidy. You know what I mean? Like, I had to grow up in that sense and really think about these things.
Did you think about that before you got married? So in the courting stages, if there was.
So that's where the expectation is now comes in, as in I already expected that this would be I already knew that this is what would be expected of me. But it was like at the back of my mind. It didn't seem like that's, you know, seriously, when I get there, I'll cross that bridge. And when I then got married, it was now like, I have to now put this into practice, which is where the challenge comes into. So there is an expectation, but are you actually able to face up to the task of compromising? Do you actually think you can? Can you actually?
But then so I'm still going back to the same question though. Yeah. Are you compromising, or are you just, I don't even know what the word would be. Please send me the word that I'm looking for. But are you just kind of giving up a part of yourself to comply with what is asked of you? So when I say compromise, how much is he willing to let go of his expectation of you?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? In terms of, well, I'm the provider and I don't do anything, you do all the domestic chores. Well, how much is he willing to compromise and let go of some of that? And how much are you willing to let go of, well, I didn't do anything when I was at home, so why do I have to do everything? And then you meet him in the middle and, okay, I'll do something in that. Do you know what I mean? So where's that's why I say, is it compromise or is it something else?
So it's within that expectation, then you can now create the compromise, or you will then know, okay, this is how much I can do and this is how much I can't. I went into the relationship knowing as a Nigerian or African wife, I am meant to be making sure dinner is ready by the time her husband is back from work, the house needs to be clean, I need to be on top of me working, and I found it hugely challenging.
This is my thing.
Yeah, because
so he's a provider and then you're also providing.
Working. Exactly.
What if you decide not to work?
Exactly. So if I decided not to work, that would also be, you know, a financial hit on our family in a way. So it's like, well, we both, you know what I mean, we both agree we're going to be working. But basically the compromise for me, and this is just personally, was, honey, I can't always have dinner ready every day. I can't always, you know, be this person that I wasn't ever before. It's all a transition. It's all learning. And my husband had to be understanding. You know what I mean? He didn't call a family meeting. She's not your wife. She doesn't know how to do. He understood. There's some days that I'm too tired.
She doesn't understand our culture.
Thank you. Exactly.
She's not Nigerian.
You know, exactly. You know, there's none of that. But I feel like that's marriage. Like, everything is a compromise. You may even go into something thinking you're ready for this, you can do this, but at some point you may realize actually it's too overwhelming. We need to compromise. We need to
work
discuss. Together. Everything is a discussion, I think, and I think that's what compromises, that discussion, right? And then the application.
Well, let's get up. Like, you know, what do you ladies think? Yeah,
I think compromise, going against what you would normally want to say or do. And you also have to be aware of what is the outcome that I want from the stand that I take, based on the fact that you're looking from a perspective of what you would naturally do, and now that there's two of you. So with compromise, I think the most important thing is to be sure that, because it can take the smallest thing to cause a problem in the marriage. Like, your husband can be saying he doesn't like the way that you squeeze the toothpaste every day for 5 years. It will be a huge problem. So compromises, and this is like to use like something to put into context, the meaning of compromise. Okay, my natural habit is to squeeze it in the middle. Because my husband doesn't like it, my compromise is now to squeeze it from the end, to not cause a problem. So a compromise is, what am I going to stand on? What is actually my crucial key points as to what is important to me? Based on what is the outcome I want from my stand. Is it important enough to stand by what I would normally stand by?
I agree. And I think there's more to that, in that the husband's role in that scenario is also his compromise in that scenario is, well, you know, she's making an effort. There may be some days you forget to squeeze the toothpaste or whatever, but he can see you're making that effort. And I think that is actually marriage, because the thing is, we place so much pressure on ourselves to do things we're compromising exactly. But, you know, we're human. We're not going to get it. We're not going to be able to just change overnight. And it's that kind of working together to get to that end goal together. You know, both husband and wife.
Because you're the same team.
Yeah, exactly.
At the end of the day, there's no fight. Unless you want an unhappy home, you're because you're on the same team, if you like it or not.
Well, not in a conflict way. But what would you not? What are you not willing to compromise on? So now that we've kind of got an understanding of what we believe compromise is and what compromise looks like in a relationship and a marriage, what is it that you're not willing to actually compromise on? I'm gonna shoot that to you because I know you haven't really.
I think it's difficult because everyone's different, and there are certain things. I mean, it depends on the situation when you come across it, and unless you come across that situation, you won't know as to whether or not you're willing to compromise or not. Unless there's a specific scenario, I would say it's very difficult to say and pinpoint like exact things that you are willing or not willing to compromise.
I mean, if I'm honest, I think for me, something that I'm not willing to compromise on is me.
Well, that's powerful, to be honest with you.
Well, if I'm honest, I've been married for a while, but it's taken me kind of up to this long to actually say, hold on a minute, why was I doing that and that? That wasn't actually me, this is me. So when I say this is me in terms of maybe how I dress, how I do my hair, setting up for wives, and I'm like, this is me. I'm a creative person, and I like to have that outlet to be creative, and not having a way of expressing myself by doing makeup, or not having a way of expressing myself by bleaching my hair, or not having a way of expressing myself by getting mummies together, having good old little chats over cake. It slowly kills you, and I found myself just going into a dark place where I just didn't know who I was anymore. That who am I other than your wife? Who am I other than this little one's mother?
So many women it happens to. They forget that actually I'm not a homemaker only. I have to have my identity, and it's so powerful what you said, that who am I? And I think also compromise comes from, you have to have your own boundaries, because as an individual, like you rightly said in the beginning of this segment, that you cannot it's an individual thing, like compromise, but boundaries are individual, because what might be your boiling point might not be yours.
Someone else's.
So that you have to be able to stand for what you know. Verbal abuse, African men, are good at it. Some women can't handle it. So I'm not going to compromise on being verbally abused every day. Just because I don't have bruises on my skin doesn't mean I'm not mentally being broken down.
110%.
And you have to compromise on, like you rightly said, bringing it together, that yes, on yourself, you have to own yourself. Who am I? And then I think it's peripherals you can compromise on. Otherwise you become unhappy and unhealthy, and if the woman breaks down, the whole home breaks down.
I guess another way to look at it as well is, you have to know who you are before you can then compromise. Because you have to have your own beliefs, you have to have your own things that you stick by before you can then make the decision that, okay, yes, I'm able to change this a little bit so that things can work a bit easier. And if you don't know who you are, then how can you compromise? You're just going to be
going along with
following whatever goes.
So I think it's also important to note that we change as well all the time. So even as the stage we're in now, this is what how we express ourselves. This is what makes us happy. But then, as we're getting older, as things change, our priorities change, our thresholds change, our patience changes. We may become even more tolerant than we imagine. You know what I mean? Or less. Exactly, more or less. It can go either way. So it's just kind of like, I think for me anyway, to the question of what won't I compromise, I think that you made a brilliant point on yourself, your values. But then also on, you know, on anything that, like you said, is going to beat you down mentally, cause you unhappiness, perpetual unhappiness, because marriage has ups and downs, of course.
Perpetual, that's the right word.
When it's just, you know, it's constant, it's like you can't remember the last time you were genuinely happy with this person. Those are the sorts of situations where it's like, well, you know, and I guess as married, I'm not going to say divorce straight away. You have to work on them. Are you going to see someone? Are you going to do couples counseling? Are you going to do something to get you to that place? But if you've tried everything and you're just losing yourself in what's supposed to be a nurturing, safe place, your home, then what's the point? You know. So I think for me, that's it really. If I find I'm just perpetually unhappy, if I find that I'm losing myself,
I'm not gonna compromise my happiness.
Your happiness,
like my genuine happiness.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. And what are the things that make you happy? For me, in my marriage, the things that make me happy is security. Knowing my husband is being faithful. I know many women are going to say, oh, you just don't know. You ain't seen his text messages. You don't know his text. Listen, guys, not every man cheats. And I just have to say that because that's, again, another connotation in African communities especially. A lot of people believe that every single man cheats or steps out of
I'm
their
not going to
marriage.
lie. I think my whole stance on that is the moment I find out about it, you obviously don't have enough respect for me to either protect me or look out for me or look after me. So... Because I'm not going to say every man cheats, but a lot of them do.
Yeah, a lot do.
So, but my thing is, I don't need to find out about that. I don't need to know. Like, if you're doing it, it better be in Antarctica, in the village, deep down in the ice. That's where you found her. Because there's no way that I don't know about her. Like, so you need to know you need to know what you're doing. Because, especially with social media, the world is so small. Everybody knows everybody now in some way, shape or form. So, you know, you'd be an idiot to actually put that extra layer of stupidness
But my thing goes deeper. I actually I to be honest, you know, whether I know, whether I don't know, it's the trust. Because for me, I think just naturally, I find it so hard to trust anyway. And if I've let you into that point and I'm being faithful, I can also be unfaithful if I wanted to. Do you know what I mean? But if I'm like, do you know what, I'm faithful, you're faithful, then this is to me. Everybody is different, but to me, this is what I want.
And trust
my
is so hard to build back.
It's you know, the thing is, if I ever was to find out, I don't know how I would react.
But can I be honest? Like, in terms of marriage and stuff, there's so many ways to break trust.
And
I always kind of thought, you know, you break trust in terms of cheating.
it's not.
But oh my days, using my personal experience, my husband's gonna kill me. But, you know, whenever we've had arguments, sometimes he will take that to other family members. That, for me, is such a big thing. And it really breaks the trust because then it means that I can't talk to you about certain things because for fear that you will take that to other people. I can't trust, you know, we can't have genuine moments within our home because I don't know if what happens within our home between ourselves is sacred. I don't know if you're going to take that back.
So how about outside of the argument, like when the dust is settled, you can say how you prefer it to be?
Oh, please, that's happened 10 million times.
And this is what I mean. I feel like, you know, when I say cheat, actually, I shouldn't actually only refer to it from cheating from having an affair or something. And I should say as well that, you know, many men, you know, men and women do have affairs once in a while, maybe. But I guess my point is, if it's something that's perpetual in your face, it's breaking you down, it's like, you're like, do you know what I mean? You can't cope in that situation anymore. You're getting STDs. These are really life and death situations for many women and people. But it's not just cheating.
And my thing is, please don't bring no crazy woman to my house. Don't. I've seen, is it Bunny Boiler? What's it called? The actual movie. She will come and now start boiling the cats. Like, please don't bring any craziness into our home.
Again, interestingly, when it says about boundaries and, you know, okay, at a certain time, like if my man ever cheats, like, and literally you've got a horror film in your head as to the consequences. When you're in it,
things change.
Things change. Things really do change
because it hits you. It's real at that point.
It's actually
not
your
just
life.
your imagination.
Exactly.
So I think that's it. It's actually, I think that's the point. I feel like it's very much a topic that it's diluted when people talk about it, like, but it's a serious situation. When people are met with that situation of unfaithfulness, it's a huge toll on them.
It should be a boundary already.
It's a boundary.
It's true.
People stay.
People stay.
It's that creating
and that's
of
the thing.
boundaries.
I think it's very easy to say things until you're in that
the
situation.
Yeah,
And I think that leads back to the point of compromise in the sense that actually you then have to compromise what you thought you felt about cheating because you're now sat in a different situation. You're actually in it. You're experiencing it. And in the past you may have said, no, I'm not going to tolerate that. I'm going to leave. But actually now, let me reconsider that. Let me see how we can work things out.
And also with the when you meet somebody, it's actually not the person that you're marrying. It's actually their family that you marry. And however things have played out, I'm sorry to say, in their childhood, you will see repercussions of it within your marriage.
Yes.
So again, if you know that someone has and I will say actually, if you know someone has grown up around domestic violence, don't be surprised if it plays into your own home.
Yeah.
But then again, when you set your boundaries, how far are you willing to come back on your boundary? Because of the fact you're trying to mitigate the fact that someone was brought up
in a volatile
their
home.
version of normal.
And that raises a very important point that I really am glad I want to talk about. Things like recently, I told you I was talking to a mental health specialist, a maternal mental health specialist, and one thing we're talking about was attachment with children and their parents and the way parents love their children and things. And a huge point was about parents who can't form relationships with their children or have attachments because of their lack of empathy. I didn't know until just recently having this discussion that there are people walking around this earth, around us that genuinely don't have empathy. They don't care.
Not surprising.
Because it wasn't.
I find
it's not.
I
Just, I
found
think it's not kids that
mind
don't care.
blowing.
When
They're
you
just
meet
not
different types
able
of people,
to.
They don't. But what I mean as in they don't care is they don't have the same emotion as all of us in that they everything they do, all the interaction is all things they've learned how to do. Facial expression, smiling, pretending. They're things they've learned.
That's
It's not real. They don't actually have the thing that's empathy because through their growing up
it's
years.
not pretending. I want to put that out there. It's not quite pretending, but it is mimiking. I'll say it's mimicking because I feel like pretending on some level is like a conscious thought to pretend to do this action, but it's how this is how they know how to interact with people.
Is that?
It's manipulation.
It's
Manipulation. It's narcissism.
Okay,
it's narcissistic personality disorders, but there are many other forms of personality disorders as well where you lack empathy. Those are the people. This is just in referring to your point about how they've grown up, how families have grown up, or domestic violence and things. People who grew up with narcissistic parents or parents with personality disorders, a lot of them do form mechanisms to protect themselves growing up. And part of those mechanisms are learning how to actually close their hearts off. They genuinely are unable to love because they've never received it. They've never received it, so they don't know how to give it. They don't understand. So you see that people who are in these relationships...
But I mean, if you... Also, sorry, just to add to what you're saying, if you look at it, I don't want to say medically, but if you look at it... is it like the psychological whatever side of it? Because I did my dissertation on mental illness, maternal mental illness, and it does have a follow-on effect. You do find that children who were brought up with disorganized attachments to their mothers are more likely to actually repeat that relationship with their own children. And when you have disorganized attachment, there's that empathy isn't there. The child will cry, the mum doesn't really...
Yes.
Not she doesn't hear it, but she doesn't quite click that that's pain or that's hurt or that's something.
The right
no, exactly. So I think that's why I'm a bit cautious about kind of using the words like pretend or because it's not this. I feel like on some level that's kind of giving it a level of consciousness because it's not a consciousness. It's just how they've learned to survive.
I understand. It's true, but then I don't know. I'm not that sympathetic in that sense. Only because there are so many people, women, men, who have been through hell and back, trust me. And they have learned those defenses. But the problem is, and it's true, it's not their fault. They are victims of their own circumstance. But it's the emotional toll and the problems and the chaos they cause for other people in their lives. In children, including their children. And this is not just with children. This is their partners, their colleagues. They bully people, they manipulate people, use people simply for their own agenda.
Yes, but also there are some people who, same as well, who are just isolated, who don't know how to interact socially, they don't know
that's
how to
different.
function in friendship groups.
That's different.
It is different.
What you're referring to is people who have certain personality traits. And when I say personality traits, I'm talking about things sort of going medically, which I often don't do, like personality disorders. And I think when you look at personality disorders and when people have that diagnosis, there are multiple different types of personality disorders, but they are at the extreme of that personality. There's a massive spectrum, and all of us are on that spectrum.
Because are they conscious of the problems that they cause?
This is my next thing. I don't feel like a lot of them are.
They are conscious
to an extent,
and they don't care. That's the definition of them.
The extent of their consciousness depends on a lot of things. At the top of that list would be how medicalised they are, and also sort of how they've been treated by others around them. So if they find that actually, because a lot of people with borderline personality disorder have really bad deranged relationships.
And they start to learn with a narcissist, and it was hell.
They start to learn as they get older that actually, from the reactions of other people, that something's not quite right.
But then they defend it.
But then they don't try and change it because they don't know how to.
They don't
So
see that
it's
there's
not
a problem.
necessarily it's not necessarily that they're doing it consciously or purposely. Yes, they understand it, but they don't know any different.
My worry about this, and I know I do mean to like harp on this subject too much, but it's just in case of whoever is viewing, whoever is in that situation. My problem with the point of it's not their fault, it's kind of how they're wired, is that the victims that are in these situations, they're chronic abuse victims who are unable to leave these relationships because they feel so much guilt for the fact that this is how my husband was raised, or it's not his fault, he just doesn't know how to love. I can help him reach that understanding. And they give till they're completely drained because and my point is just that in terms of us talking about, what can we compromise on, what we can't, we need to be so careful about the types of relationships, and like you said, about the character, the characteristics of the people, noticing the character of a person. I can't compromise with someone who lacks empathy. No rational person can do that.
Or for someone who's
no compromising.
Violence, and violence is their norm, it doesn't have to become the person they're with's norm.
It doesn't exactly. It doesn't have to be. And
but as you said, obviously that person who's with that person with the history of the past, you need to know what your boundary is, and you need to set that. Just to wrap it up.
Do we move it back? Sorry.
I'm sorry, ladies, because honestly, this is really good. And I know you're bubbling next to me, and you're still bubbling over here, and I've got you steaming over there. But we do have to wrap it up because I don't even know how we're going to do this. 2 parts, 3 parts. Well,
you need to come back.
But honestly, you definitely need to come back. Thank you so much for joining the panel, for discussing this topic. And if you have any tips, any advice, any comments, anything at all, please do leave it down there. I will read them all personally. And if it's a case of doing a video to respond to it, then I think we should. And I think that is what we'll do as well. So again, thank you for joining us. Like, subscribe, share with other people so they can like and subscribe. And follow us on all the social medias. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Bye.